On Conflict Zone this week, our first interview with a serving Israeli minister since the Gaza war began, raising key questions on his government's tactics, human rights in its prisons, and US accusations that the country has been bombing Gaza indiscriminately. Amichai Chikli is Diaspora Affairs Minister, but he wants nothing to do with Jews who join anti-war protests abroad. We ask why he's accusing Spain's Prime Minister of anti-Semitism. Once again, talks on a hostage release get underway, but what are the chances of a breakthrough? The hostage families warn the government they won't let it torpedo another deal. Amichai Chikli, welcome to Conflict Zone.
Hello.
It seems that talks will again take place this week over a possible deal on releasing Israeli hostages and pausing the fighting in Gaza. What are the chances of a breakthrough this time, do you think?
It's hard to tell. Until the last minute, it's hard to tell. I hope we will reach an agreement. Obviously, one of the main purposes of the war, one of the main goals is to bring back our hostages, 120 hostages that are still kept in Hamas dungeons and tunnels. And I hope that we can reach an agreement.
Apparently, your Prime Minister suddenly threw in a new list of non-negotiable demands just before the talks are due to start again. The Times of Israel said his move was met with anger by Israeli security officials and mediators who not for the first time accused him of trying to sabotage the deal. Is that what he was trying to do? Put a last-minute spoke in the wheel?
No, I think that it's hilarious to say that the Prime Minister is fully committed to bringing back the hostages that are kept by the monsters of Hamas. We have set goals for this war, and we're not going to withdraw. The goal is to defeat Hamas, is to annihilate his military capabilities, his political and government capabilities, and that is these are the goals that we've set, and we're not going to move backwards from these goals. In order to reach these goals, the army himself, not the Prime Minister, the army himself knows that we need to have a control, military control over the Philadelphia corridor, the Tsarim corridor, the perimeter, to allow the IDF forces full scale of movement all across Gaza Strip. And these are the demands that we cannot give up these elements. We can have a ceasefire, and we can release terrorists, unfortunately, but we will do it in order to bring back our people. But we won't give up the conditions to complete the mission of annihilating Hamas, its militant and its leaders.
The army says that you're not going to achieve your aims. Chief IDF spokesperson Daniel Hagari said in an interview last month on Channel 13, whoever thinks we can eliminate Hamas is mistaken. Making Hamas disappear, it's simply throwing sand in the eyes of the public. Hamas is an idea. Hamas is a political party. It's rooted in the hearts of the people. Hamas is the Muslim Brotherhood. It's been around for many, many years. Judging by the results so far, he's right, isn't he?
First and foremost, Hamas is suffering heavily. He's lost 1/3 of its terrorists, many of its commanders. He lost control over the Philadelphia corridor with dozens of tunnels that are the main tunnels that from these tunnels he had weapons coming, explosives coming from the Sinai Peninsula. Hamas is an idea, is not something that I care about. Just like in Nazi Germany, there was also an idea. It was an ideological movement.
You don't care what your own military spokesman says?
I'm saying that we're not speaking about eliminating the idea of Hamas. We are speaking about eliminating the terrorist of Hamas.
That's not going so well either, is it? That's not going so well either.
The weapons factories of Hamas, its military capabilities. This is what we need to eliminate. The idea, maybe there will be more people who believe in the idea of Hamas. I don't care. As long as Hamas as a military organization does not exist.
You talked about your aims of the war, but as far as the people are concerned, 2/3 of the Israeli public say returning the hostages is more important than continuing the war. You are losing the faith of the hostage families. In a statement over the weekend, they said the people of Israel voted time and again in every poll that it's in favor of a full deal for the return of all the hostages. We will not allow government ministers to torpedo a deal once again. And they threatened that if the government fails to accept a deal this time, millions will take to the streets. They're not impressed with the government's performance, are they?
Well, first, there are several groups of families of the hostages and also victims of the warriors who fell during the war with different voices. Some of them think that we need to go into a deal no matter what are the conditions. And obviously, we can have disagreement. And our goal is first and foremost to win this war. It's not going to be easy. We made a significant progress. As I've said, 1/3 of the terrorists of Hamas were eliminated. Most of his military factoring capabilities, missiles capabilities, launching capabilities, he lost most of these capabilities. We can have a ceasefire and we can release some terrorists, but we cannot stop the war and we cannot allow Hamas to survive.
While the war has gone on, Mr. Chikli, Israel's reputation has suffered greatly around the world. For now, a majority of Americans, your closest allies, disapprove of Israel's conduct of the war, 55% against. And so does their government. Despite all your protestations about protecting civilians, President Biden has accused Israel point blank of indiscriminate bombing, one of the most serious charges that can be leveled in wartime. He is in a position to know what he's talking about, isn't he? You have the closest possible intelligence connections between Israel and the US.
First, I'm not aware of any other Western army who calls for civilians to evacuate the areas where attacks are going to be launched, air attacks or raids against Hamas positions. The IDF is extremely careful in regarding to civilian lives. I think more than any other Western army. About the PR, I've seen the polls, many polls, Harvard Harris and others. Most of the population in America still support Israel. Yes, we do have a challenge with the younger generation, and we will need to do a lot of work of education and a public diplomacy to have a better situation in terms of public diplomacy. But the main mission now is to win this war against jihadist, genocidal organizations who threatened to commit the crimes of October 7, raping, murdering, beheading, mutilating bodies again and again and again. So it's not that we have a choice here, and we did not choose this war. It wasn't our initiative. We were attacked, and this is a very natural response to these attacks.
Under what circumstances is indiscriminate bombing not a war crime in your view?
What do you mean indiscriminate bombing?
This is what President Biden accused you of, indiscriminate bombing.
He accused, but that's not the reality. The bombings are...
So he doesn't know what he's talking about?
Against Hamas targets. It's against Hamas targets, yes.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's wrong.
He's wrong.
Mr. Chikli, you don't use 2,000-pound bombs if you want to go easy on civilians, do you? Which is why America has suspended some of those shipments to you.
If you call the civilians to evacuate the territory before, and then you use heavy bombs, because in some cases, entire streets are being trapped by bombs of Hamas, I think it's absolutely legitimate.
So you part company with the Americans on that. Biden himself said in May, civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs, the 2,000-pound bombs, and other ways in which they, meaning Israel, goes after population centers. The State Department also flagged its concerns, saying it was reasonable to assess that Israel had at times used American weapons in a manner inconsistent with international law. That's quite an accusation.
Do you have other opinion? How can you target Hamas terrorists who are in tunnels at 20 meters, 50 meters, sometimes 70 meters beneath the ground? How can you do it without heavy bombing? You can tell me. How will you do it?
Do you feel nothing for the huge numbers of casualties that you've caused? 38,000 dead, more than 80,000 injured, more than 1 million people displaced, thousands of Palestinian children dead.
And who chose this war, Mr. Tim?
No, I'm asking about how you feel about the Palestinians.
We didn't choose this war.
This is life. This is life.
We didn't choose.
Whether it's Israeli life or Palestinian life, it's still life.
It's a war.
You feel nothing for the loss of their lives?
Hamas opened war. We didn't choose this war. What do you want us to do? You say, okay, you can get away with burning entire families alive, raping, murdering innocent people in a party, destroying entire villages. What do you expect us to do exactly?
Well, President Biden expects you to listen to him. He's repeated.
I'm not asking about President Biden. I'm asking you as a reasonable human being.
I'm not here to answer questions. I'm here to ask them and to get your views. But Biden has repeated over and over again.
I think it's our moral obligation. It's our moral obligation to eliminate Hamas, whatever it takes. I think we are making huge efforts to prevent the killing of civilians. And that is despite the fact that hundreds of civilians participated in the murder, robbery, raping of innocent Israelis on October 7th. So this is not about revenge. This is about the future. We must secure our villages and our people. Where does Hamas operate from? UNRWA infrastructures, schools, hospitals. He is operating from the civil population. So it makes it very, very difficult to create a total separation and to have a situation in which there are no civilian casualties. This is the war. It's not a war against an army. It's a war against a terror organizations who uses the population as human shield, and you know it.
You don't take kindly to criticism, do you? You said you're not interested in building alliances, even with diaspora Jews who take part in international protests against your military campaign in Gaza. Why is that? Are all Jews supposed to think the same way you do about this war?
No, absolutely. We can have disagreement. But if you are going with anti-Semite Hamas supporters, BDS supporters, so that's a problem. That's a problem, yeah.
You called Pedro Sanchez, the Spanish Prime Minister, an anti-Semite for saying he had genuine doubts about whether Israel was abiding by international law. Is President Biden also an anti-Semite for expressing his doubts?
No, he isn't. No, he isn't.
So why is Pedro Sanchez then? Why is Pedro Sanchez?
Do you compare Sanchez to Biden?
Both have concerns.
Do you compare?
Both have concerns.
They are very, very different.
You think you can get away with saying this about Sanchez, but not about Biden? Is that it?
Sanchez is a communist who thinks we need to award the Palestinian with a state because of the events of October 7th. Sanchez came to Rafah corridor at the day of the hostage agreement to condemn Israel and took a PR round on the back of the hostages in the most cynical way possible. So about Sanchez, really, I stand behind my words. That's an anti-Semite, an irresponsible, is not a serious leader. And Biden never said such things. He had criticism, and that's okay. And we can have disagreement. But I would not compare Biden to Sanchez. It's like to compare Biden to Mélenchon.
You think your comments about Sanchez are helpful to your country, insulting and ridiculing important people? Or is it just for personal gratification?
To say the truth. And when I see anti-Semite like Corbyn or Galloway or Melon Shun, who refuse to recognize Hamas as a terror organization, who refuse to condemn the massacre of October 7, we have nothing to debate with these kind of leaders. These kind of leaders are aligned with Hamas, terror organizations, PFLP, Palestinian Authority.
You complain about anti-Semitism in the West, but the protests against your action in Gaza can't all be explained away as anti-Semitism, can they?
I never said that any demonstration against Israel is an anti-Semite act. There can be criticizing of the state of Israel just like any other nation, and that's perfectly okay. But when you are blocking the entrance of Jewish students to go into the campus because they are Jewish, that's anti-Semitism. And when you are calling from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, meaning there will be no Israel, meaning ethnic cleansing and genocide against the Jewish people, then you're an anti-Semite. So this is anti-Semitism. And saying that please stop the bombing in Gaza or something like that, that is something else. And we can draw a line in between the two.
As this war has gone on, you and other leading politicians, as we've seen, continue to claim the moral high ground. Your own human rights organizations have a very different view. Your public committee against torture has slammed your army's treatment of detainees at its Statehood prison in the Negev and at other facilities. And an Israeli doctor who was stationed there has confirmed a collection of reports citing appalling treatment of detainees, much of it amounting to torture. Just this week, he said in April, 2 prisoners had their legs amputated due to handcuff injuries, which unfortunately is a routine event. We're all complicit, he said, in breaking the law. Do you care?
So Israel is a vibrant democracy. As you can see, there are human rights activists, there are discussions in the Supreme Court. This detainees base is now closed because of complaints of these organizations. And this is the state of Israel. Have you heard any criticism coming from human rights activists about the conditions in which the hostages are being held? Have you heard something from the Red Cross about the conditions of the hostages or the killing of hostages inside Shifa Hospital or in the Hamas tunnels? Have you heard anything like that coming from Gaza?
How much did we hear about the conditions in State Taman and other prison facilities, since there was no public authorization for people held there until the 45th day, and the Red Cross wasn't allowed to visit? Families were not informed of where their relatives were. These were forced disappearances, weren't they?
That Taman is being closed because of complaints that the conditions were not good enough. I don't think we need to give the Hamas terrorists the looks treatment. They need to receive the minimum that we owe by international laws, and we stand by the international laws. And well, if there any situation in which there is a problem, then we have our legal system to make sure we stand according to international law.
You don't like human rights organizations, do you? You have in the past dismissed them as anti-Semitic and anti-Zionist, whose purpose, you claim, is to undermine Israel's legitimacy and spill the blood of its soldiers and citizens. You actually said that at a conference 2 years ago. Are you really so scared of their criticism that you have to kind of construct this dark, malign character to delegitimize
when you're
them?
saying human rights organizations, some of them have a clear political role, pro-Palestinian organizations. For instance, Gisha, for instance, B'Tselem, Breaking the Silence. These organizations are heavily funded by European states.
They're part of that democracy that you're so proud of.
I am proud that these organizations can operate, but some of these organizations are hostile. Some of these organizations will fight for the Nukhba prisoners, but they won't fight for the rights of their own people. So therefore, I also have criticism to some of them, and I distinguish some of them operates in a fair way, and not just against, not just regarding to the rights of terrorists, but those who are doing everything to protect terrorists, but remain silent when our people are being butchered, massacred, raped. These organizations, and I mentioned some of them, Breaking the Silence, B'Tselem, I think these organizations are political organizations, and they are operating against the state of Israel.
Mr. Chikli, let's look at the day after the war ends, whenever that is going to be. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says there has to be a clear political plan, a clear humanitarian plan, in order to ensure Hamas does not in any shape or form resume control of Gaza. You're never going to agree to Palestinian statehood next to you, are you?
First of all, if you examine the situation in Jordan, in terms of the population, most of the populations are Palestinians, around 70%. It was established on British mandatory Palestine. And I'm not sure that you can say that Palestinians doesn't have rights there. So they have rights. The Queen is even Palestinian, and we have peace agreement with Jordan. I think we can afford autonomy in Judea and Samaria. I think we can afford autonomy in Gaza. We cannot afford a full state with an army. I think this is the biggest lessons of October 7. Actually, de facto, the Palestinians had a state, a small state in Gaza. We evacuated 21 villages that we have destroyed, our own villages. We evacuated 10,000 people from their homes in order to bring peace, in order to allow the Palestinians to govern Gaza.
And you sat outside and guarded everything that went in and everybody that came out. You were like prison guards outside the prison instead of in it.
Prison? Why prison?
Because nobody could leave without your say-so. Nobody could enter without your say-so.
You have a border. They have a border with Egypt, an Arab state.
With whom you cooperated
with
closely.
Egypt.
Yes.
With Egypt. They had a border with Egypt. They can go. They had thousands of them were able to walk in Israel and to bring salaries back home. There was trade with Gaza, and we received October 7. So what is the lesson? Do you want us to evacuate more villages?
The lesson is more from the fact that you facilitated the funding of Hamas in order to divide and conquer the Palestinians, didn't you? To prevent them from speaking with a single voice, knowing that Hamas and the Palestinian authorities would be at each other's throats. You promoted that. Didn't go so well, did it?
They chose, the Palestinians in Gaza chose in elections Hamas.
And you chose to have them financed.
They chose Hamas. They chose Hamas. They chose, according to the Shkaki Research Institute, to support, even now to support, October 7 massacre. They do not regret the massacre of October 7. They are responsible human beings. They could have chosen otherwise. They could have turned Gaza into Singapore. They could have invested not in manufacturing missiles and 900 kilometers of tunnels beneath the ground, but to build towers, hotels, factories. They didn't do it.
They wanted a state on the same land that you want a state. And as your first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, said 100 years ago, there is no solution to this. Both of you want the same land. Both of you want to have it as states. There is no solution to this. The last 100 years have proved David Ben-Gurion right, haven't they?
I think that what we've seen is that Israel is a culture of life, of prosperity, of no hatred towards the Palestinians. You can go into every single kindergarten in Israel and ask the kids about the song, I was born for peace to arrive. In Hebrew, Ani noladti lashalom shirak yagia. And you can go to any kindergarten in Gaza and ask the kids in Gaza, what have they taught about the Jews, about the state of Israel, to eliminate them. Irhab, go, attack. This is the Palestinian education. And by the way, it's not just Hamas, but also the PLO. This is the big difference between Palestinians and Israelis.
Mr. Chikli,
we cherish life, they cherish death.
Mr. Chikli,
that's a fanatic ideology of the Muslim Brotherhood, of Al-Qardawi, of Hassan al-Banna, of the Mufti Amin al-Husseini, a genocidal ideology, racist ideology, anti-Semite ideology. That is the reality. They can choose to create in Gaza a state, a flourishing state, with an economy. They didn't do it.
All right, Mr. Chikli, we've run out of time. Thanks very much for being on Conflict Zone.
Thanks for you.